Alright guys, so I accidentally clicked the wrong button, so that's why this video is in two parts. I cut off the video instead of stopping, I cut off the recording instead of stopping the video. So here are 3 examples, and you're going to hear her read them to you. She's going to ask you to write one down. Please do that, and don't just write the shortest one, but write the example that you really feel what the author is trying to get across to you. Make sure that you're taking notes. And choose one of these.
Is one of the following examples of repetition for effect. Choose your favorite. Now, as I read these, I want you to think about why the author would choose to repeat the words or phrases that they did. Everything was gray. Gray sky, gray trees, gray hut, gray ground. Gray people in gray clothes moving. This author wanted us to feel a certain way. This author wanted us to feel depressed and kind of like things are dreary. And you know what? That's exactly how I feel. I imagine everything is gray, and that's how I imagine this setting. Second example. It was a knocking that would change our lives forever and forever, and knocking at the door that I would hear in 1,000 dreams to come, and knocking that would always wake me, no matter how deeply I slept or how comfortable I was. I like this example because a knocking are 2 words that are almost poetic. There's a rhythm to it. It's almost like I can hear a knocking. And as a result, it's a very powerful effect on the reader.
I thought this example was also really effective, or it made me think of Anne Frank. When they finally do come and take away the people from the secret annex, I can imagine that knock on the door, on the bookshelf, or the sound that the bookcase made when it opened, it changed her life forever. She would hear that in 1,000 dreams to come. It would always wake her. Because she ended up in a concentration camp, and we know that. And so that knock on the door, the opening of that door, changed her life forever, as we know. Let's continue.
This next example, you can see how they started the phrase the same way, but then they changed the verb at the end. But the moment my friend and I were upside down, all I could think about was what in the world was I doing? All I could hear was my friend's vibrating scream and myself whimpering. All I could feel was the harness around my neck, jerking all different directions. Because of the phrase this author chose to repeat, I'm thinking, hearing, and feeling right along with the person who's either going on a roller coaster or bungee jumping. It's hard to tell. This is an example that I just read this morning. As lightly as I can, I tap the other girl's shoulder with my foot. Here's some water. I keep my eyes closed, but I can hear the water being passed from person to person. There's a hush when the water arrives to Stephanie. I imagine her like a tree, drinking in the water through her roots. I imagine how good it must feel to drink the water after being so thirsty. I imagine the water rising up in her and seeping into her leaves. By choosing to repeat the words, I imagine, that's exactly what I did. I imagined right along with the main character. And that's the effect that the writer wanted us to experience. And so, once again, she chose words that were going to be powerful enough for the reader to notice, to kind of slow down, and to experience that with the characters. So now it's your turn. Underneath your example that you just wrote down, I want you to give this a try. I want you to try and describe running using repetition for effect. Now, running is very broad in general, so have some fun. Be creative with what angle you choose to take this. If you're stuck, try thinking about what runners do when they're running. What are some of their actions? I wrote some examples here on the screen. They breathe, they move their legs, etc. So then you have to ask yourself, what do you want to emphasize? What do you want the reader to focus on? What effect do you want to have on your reader? Do you want them to focus on how hard it is to breathe when they run? Well, then choose a phrase that's going to emphasize that hard to breathe feeling. If you want to focus on how fast they're moving, you want to choose a phrase that's going to describe their speed or their stride. if you're going to focus on how much they're sweating, you want to choose a phrase that's going to stand out to them about how hot they are, how tired they are, and how much sweat is pouring off of them. So ask yourself, what do you want to focus on? Here's my example. I could see the finish line in the distance, a landmark growing ever closer with every stride. I struggled to catch my breath for the thousandth time. I struggled to ignore the pounding of my heart as it threatened to beat right out of my chest. I struggled to keep my legs in motion long enough to cross that line, that far-off line. I chose to emphasize how running is sometimes a struggle, whether it's to catch your breath, ignore your heart pounding, or to keep your legs in motion. So that phrase, I struggled to, helps me to emphasize the struggle of running. So once again, this is your chance to describe running. Choose phrases to repeat and have some fun showing us the experience of repetition for effect and running. Remember, don't tell us, show us.
I definitely agree with her, guys. You definitely want to show us what you're feeling or what your character's feeling or experiencing. Put us there in their situation. You can do it with running. It's something that is universal, especially since you guys just ran the mile run maybe, a few weeks ago, and I know it was tough for everybody involved. But running isn't always that way. Some of you guys are in very competitive sports, and you thrive on that. Last year, one of our students qualified for the Junior Olympics, so you can focus on running in a positive way. Now, if you want to pick a totally different situation, that's fine. Maybe what you guys are going through right now, what feeling is predominant right now in your mind or in your heart. You're welcome to choose a phrase or words and repeat those and tell me how you're feeling. But running is something we can kind of all relate to. So don't forget to send me the notes that you took. That was in part 1. It had the definition of repetition for effect. And then just one sentence. You want to repeat a word or a phrase 3 times. All right, I will see you guys later.